Hello, and welcome to Wherever Skies rating, or at least my rating of it. It's just mine, so don't worry about it if you don't like it, whatever. It's my personal preference. Yeah, we are going to do things a little differently compared to last time, but I apologize again for having it come out a lot later than usual, but let's get right into it. So first, we're gonna go off the story. So there's some pros and cons to it. Pros, obviously, overall is a great overall story. Love the actual concept of you going around trying to find a cure for this gray plague, quote unquote, slash black plague. Finding the cure and trying to send it back up to the ship, and you run into certain difficulties. I'm trying not to do too many spoilers. Had voice acting, which is always nice, and was very good voice acting in my opinion. And the cons, it kind of felt a little. I noticed they got a lot of ideas from Subnautica, which is fine. It's just Subnautica in the sky. A lot of people compare it to, but it is a lot different to the fact of instead of you having, this disease which is coming from aliens, there's actually just a disease from Earth, which is nice. So it's like a previous disease that we didn't really find a cure for it, and we just contracted it finally, or it finally showed symptoms, I believe. And the other con was it had some laggy cutscenes, especially with the final cutscenes. I don't know why it was very laggy in the final cutscenes, but there is two endings, which is nice, and you'd be able to see both those endings through my playthrough. So I gave it a 8 out of 10. So very good story overall, and laggy cutscenes kind of brought it down. Next, let's talk about the environment. So Pros is very cool and unique, awesome, kind of very open, can go anywhere really, and you had all these different buildings, and they were differently architected, and you had like the radio towers, windmill farms, all that sort of stuff. Cons were the underdust areas. So the underdust areas were very cool looking, very good concept of you're going under the place you're not allowed to go, and you only have like a certain amount of oxygen. You gotta go keep finding oxygen stuff, but it was just laggy always, and I'm able to run pretty big games at pretty good FPS, but these underdust areas were just the laggiest things, and they're just huge mazes. Some of the towers too. It's like once you found one radio tower, the other radio tower were the same, and they had like the same data cards, which you would find, which had like blueprints, pieces of the story, pieces of like side stories. They're like the same data cards. So I kind of wish there was a little bit of differences in the data cards. That would have been nice. But overall, 6 out of 10. Just really hit hard with the laggy underdust areas. Again, it was very cool looking, very nice concept, but man, was the lag insane. And then the towers being a little too similar once you explored them. Now we're going to talk about the visuals. It looks great for the pros. It looks awesome. Didn't really see too much, I guess, undeveloped areas, stuff like that. Love the atmosphere of the game. It got dark when there's thunderstorms, and the nighttime wasn't too dark, which is always a good thing. It wasn't like, let's say, Ark Survival Evolved, where it like just pitch black as soon as it got nighttime. Cons were a little glitchy, a little laggy sometimes, which is, fine for small developer, but it is a fully released game, so kind of expect a little less laggy. But overall, visuals looked pretty good. I love the art styles and the paintings. You could see these graffitis on these like side of the buildings you could scan. They looked great. So 8 out of 10, not a bad score. Next, we'll go with the HUD/UI. It was great. It's very easy to use. I loved all the different interfaces. I loved the crafting interfaces, the inventory interfaces. The data cards were always easy. The only con is sometimes the split stack doesn't work, which Really, it didn't happen very often, so I gave it a 9 out of 10. A very good HUD and UI system, in my opinion. Probably one of the better ones I've seen in a long time. And on to the building. So pros, it was free range to the airship. I enjoy that you're kind of flying your base around. You can build whatever you wanted on it. It was easy to do. You were able to snap. You were able to free place. Love that style of building. Only cons is the snapping does get a little weird sometimes, and you only really get to unlock all the cool stuff towards the end, which always is kind of, I get it. They want you to continue on with the story to unlock more stuff, but even just like cosmetically, they're like not very, I guess, unique building parts till you really reach towards the end of the game, which is kind of upsetting. But overall, 8 out of 10. Very good building. So crafting, I love the different crafting machines. Like, I loved all the different machines, and they're easy to use. I like the little mini game for the virus analyzer, I believe it was. Yes, the sampler analyzer. And the only issue I saw was some of the crafting needed batteries. Like, basically 90% of them needed batteries, which I did not enjoy, because a lot of the other kind of areas, like the device fabricator, that didn't need a battery. Like, if you're gonna go with that concept, you'd have everything have a battery, or only like onesie twosies. But overall, 8 out of 10. Enjoyed the crafting. I did enjoy, obviously, you could craft, leave the inventory, so you didn't have to sit there and wait. You could do other stuff. So very good on the crafting. Grinding, it was very easy to grind. It doesn't take too long. You just have this little device in which you could just shoot at the materials that you need, and then you can charge it. And then towards the end of the game, you got a mounted thing, and then towards way later, you can have an automated mounted laser to kind of get any materials you're flying by. Only cons is, you, again, like with the automated thing, you unlocked it like a couple missions before the end of the game, and maybe I could have found it beforehand if I would have landed at different sites and stuff, but a lot of the sites were, again, very similar. And yeah, overall 9 out of 10. Very easy to grind. It didn't take too long. You didn't have to sit there for hours trying to grind material, so that's always a plus. So character, there really were no pros to the character, because mostly cons. There's no character customization. You were able to kind of customize the colors of your, like, your backpack, and I think a couple other items, but that was all like after the final parts of the game. Like, you were on your last mission at the last area you were supposed to be at, and then you were just able to customize finally at the end. Which, if you're gonna let the character customize, try to, I guess, let it get unlocked earlier stages in the games, and then find stuff throughout, like different plants will change to different colors. That would have been nice. But overall, I gave it a 5 out of 10, just because there wasn't really too much for the character. So now we're going to talk about the enemies. Now, these enemies were very unique. They had cool mechanics. I enjoyed the flying creature that would attach to your ship, and the only way to kill it was to beam it off with your resource collector, and after 3 shots it would actually fall off, and if you didn't, it would actually wreck your ship. That was cool. There was some critters and stuff that were pretty cool. Only cons is ratio. The loot ratio was a little unbalanced, and the bigger creatures like the mantises, they were just annoying. They were hard to kill. You couldn't fight them at range because they spit acid at you. You could fight them a little bit at close range, but you have to worry about their attacks, and I feel like they just took too much to kill for like 1 or 2 drops of like chitin that it'd give you. Maybe I think maybe closer to 3 or 4, but still the loot ratio is very unbalanced in this game compared to like Some of the other critters, you kill them, you get a little bit of food, and that's all you get, which I understand. With the flying thing, you basically destroy the scrap off them, you get the scrap. But the biggest creature, which you face a lot in the Underdust areas, you don't really get much, which I didn't find very fun and enjoyable. So difficulty, it wasn't too difficult most of the times. For the pros, it was, you could always change it up as well. The only cons is the Underdust and the Mantis difficulties. They weren't like hardly difficult. Like the Mantises were just beefy for no reason. I had to shoot like 6 to 7 crossbow bolts. I used a landmine on one and still had to do a crossbow bolt. And the Underdust areas were just laggy mazes, which if it's already a maze, it's kind of difficult enough, but then you add the lag on top of it because all the generation under it just makes it kind of unfun overall. So 7 out of 10 for difficulty. So total score of 75 out of 100 or 7.5 out of 10 could easily have been a 8 or 9 out of 10 if the character customization, you just gotta add just a little bit, just not too bad. Or just like different suits would have been nice. Just anything simple would have boosted it with some points. Fix the laggy areas for sure. That would probably be my biggest gripe. But overall, the visuals look great. The concept was great. Even the enemies, even though the Mantis was hard, it was a very unique enemy. Same with the flying scrap monster, all the good stuff. They even had giant like dust moths that would fly up out of the buildings. Overall, great game. Was it worth the money? I think so. I think it's definitely worth a try. It's also has co-op now. Haven't tried the co-op, might try it later. Well, that's the end of my review. If you guys did enjoy, please leave a like down below, leave a comment. If you guys want to see me review any other games, it really helps out. If you want to come see me live, Twitch is down in the description below. If you don't want to comment on YouTube, shoot me a message on X, that's also down below. And this is the Forever Skies review. I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace!